I was thinking that when you say reserve, you go for a certain number of months in a year, and then you commit to yourself here. You can stay at one place, go on a weekend, attend to the programs, attend to your military training, and be available for nation's call. So this is something really interesting. Like this should, motivate people to look for options as in reserve cannot make it into the regular army.
Yes. And I'm glad that you brought that up because there's just so much information. I'm kind of bouncing around here answering your questions, but I'll go back to the beginning, what I normally do if I'm doing my recruiting presentation, and just talk about the differences between the regular force and the reserves. Because this whole time I'm saying, oh, regular force is this, reserve is that. What are the reserves? What are the differences, right? So, I mean, the obvious one is that regular force is full-time and reserves is part-time. But the addendum to that is there are actually some full-time employment opportunities available with the reserves as well. Part of our job is to augment, support the regular force. So we are trained reservists who are able to backfill positions. So we can get short-term, full-time contract, the regular force once we're fully trained as reservists. And there are even a small number of full-time positions available within the reserve. It's primarily part-time, but just so people are aware that can work full-time as a reservist, because not everybody knows that. Number two is the long-term commitment. So as I mentioned a couple times, in the regular force, it's normal when you join, you'll get a terms of service, which will designate the amount of time that you're committing to serve. The minimum, I think, again, I'm a reservist, not a regular force, but I think the minimum you can get is around 3 years, and they can be 5 years, 7 years, even up to 9 years. And it depends on things like how long the training for your occupation is going to be, how much they're investing in training you, if they're giving you any money for education, as we talked about before, is going to determine how long your contract are, factors like that. In the reserves, it's an indefinite period of service. You're not signing up for any long-term period. You can voluntarily withdraw from the reserves at any time. The only addendum to that to be aware of is that in the case of an emergency, you could be called into service for up to 1 year from when you withdraw. But there's no long-term commitment in the reserve. The next, to live. So we talked about postings in the regular force. So yes, it's true. As a member of full-time regular force, you can be posted to different locations around Canada or internationally, depending on the requirements of the job. In the reserves, you could do your entire career for 42 years from 18 to 60 in one place. And I actually know people who have retired at 60 and were at HMCS CHIPPAWA in Winnipeg the entire time. So yes, in the reserve, we do travel for training. We have to travel to different, especially in the Navy, we go to the coast frequently to do our training programs and stay up to date on all of our skills, and also travel for deployments. If you're volunteering to support the regular force on the deployment, obviously your job is going to involve travel, but your home base can remain the same. You don't get posted or have to move yourself and your family to live at different locations. A couple of things to add to that is if you do choose to move, say you're doing a university program or you got a great civilian job in another city and you're moving there, it's very easy to transfer between reserve divisions. I know in the Navy, we have 24 Naval Reserve divisions in Canada. So most major cities in Canada have a Naval Reserve division. So if you're moving to another city, it's very easy to transfer. So you have a job waiting for you, your part-time job on the side waiting for you in almost any city in Canada if you're planning on. So last thing about the reserves is the working schedule, is that, as I mentioned before, it's evenings and weekends. And we base our schedule largely on the university schedule because we have a lot of members who are students. So we work our part-time hours from September until May, just like a typical Canadian university. Every unit is going to be different. So I'm not going to say that they're all going to be the same, but in Winnipeg here, we do Tuesday and Thursday evenings and an average of 1 weekend per month. And that's September till May. And then in the summer, we offer our full-time training courses, which are paid. All training in the military is paid, or in the Canadian military. So for students, it's great because it's a part-time job while you're in class and a full-time summer job all in one. So there's that great benefit there as well, that you're not looking for a summer job each year. One of the challenges of the reserve, if you do have a full-time civilian job, is getting time off work to do military training, because some of our occupations require training ranging anywhere from 3 weeks up to 3 or 4 months in length, especially like naval warfare officer, a seagoing occupation where you have to spend time on a ship doing navigation, giving commands, to get qualified. It's a responsibility. So it can be a challenge to get time off work. And this is one of the common questions I get, which is why I'm jumping into it. But we have a number of resources available in Manitoba, and most provinces in Canada, I think, have job protection legislation. So your civilian employer, those protections so that you don't lose your job, or they have to keep a position available for you if you're taking time off to do military training. There's other benefits in place through the CFLC, the Canadian Forces Liaison Council, which has a number of supports available for military members. And I have a whole video about this with all the details on my YouTube channel. So you can go check it out. Because there's a lot of information to get across, and just know that it can be difficult to get time off work, of course, to do military training, but we do have some supports and programs available to assist with that.